New Zealand is bigger than the UK, just as temperate as Western Europe and breathtakingly beautiful. Yet, nearly 80% of it sits untouched, not barren, not wild, simply vacant. Why? And what does that mean for its future? Let's uncover the hidden forces that shaped this paradox. Surprisingly, it's larger than the United Kingdom. The two main islands are so long, stretching from Florida to Pennsylvania if placed over a United States map. But New Zealand isn't just big, it's livable. It enjoys an oceanic temperate climate with warm summers, mild winters, and steady rainfall that supports green hills, rivers, and forests. This same climate supports major cities in Western Europe: Mexico City, Johannesburg, Vancouver, and southeastern Australia. And yet, only about 5 million people live there, roughly the population of a city like Atlanta, spread across a country larger than the United Kingdom. Even more striking, 80% of its land is untouched by development, filled with mountains, valleys, and silence. So why does such a livable place remain so empty? That's the mystery at the heart of New Zealand, a land built for many, yet home to few. And do you think New Zealand should encourage more people to move inland, or is it better left untouched? I'd love to hear your thoughts below. It's not just the landscape that's underpopulated. The numbers tell an even more startling story. One of the most notable outliers is New Zealand, which, despite having a climate nearly identical to that of the United Kingdom and being even larger in land area, is far less populated. The United Kingdom has a population approaching 69 million, while New Zealand has just over 5 million, almost 14 times fewer people. New Zealand's total landmass has a smaller population than many other smaller islands around the world, despite its size and favorable climate. This contrast is clear when compared to islands like Java, Honshu, and Great Britain. Each is smaller than New Zealand, yet supports significantly larger populations. To illustrate, the average population density in the United Kingdom is 281 people per square kilometer, compared to only 18 in New Zealand. That makes the United Kingdom approximately 15 times as densely populated. But even within this small population, something even more bizarre happens. Nearly all of them seem to crowd into one corner of the country. New Zealand's population distribution becomes even more unusual the closer you examine it. Approximately 80% of the country remains uninhabited. There is a noticeable difference in population spread between the two main islands. Over 3/4 of New Zealand's residents live on the North Island, while less than 1/4 are dispersed across the larger South Island. The smaller North Island has a significantly higher population, and nearly half of its residents live in and around Auckland, the country's largest city. Auckland is strategically located on an isthmus, with natural harbors to the north and south, and sits on a dormant volcanic field with fertile soils. The Auckland region alone accounts for about 37% of New Zealand's total population and is nearing 2 million people. This level of concentration makes New Zealand one of the most centralized countries in the developed world. For perspective, the North Island is home to 4 of the country's 5 largest cities. In contrast, the largest city in the South Island is Christchurch, located on the flat Canterbury Plains. Excluding the Christchurch area, the rest of the South Island, comparable in size to the Netherlands plus half of Belgium, has a very low population density, averaging only about 5.4 people per square kilometer. That's similar to the sparsely populated states of North Dakota and South Dakota in the United States. So, what's keeping the rest of this vast country so empty? Before exploring, I have a special 10-second request for all of you listening. If you can help me in any way, just hit the notification bell and hit that subscribe button. It helps this channel so much. And if you do that, I will do everything I can to make this show even better for you. Deal? Today, the most significant reason for New Zealand's low population is its geographic isolation. Some cartographers divide the world into two hemispheres, the land hemisphere and the water hemisphere. New Zealand sits near the center of the water hemisphere. Its closest major landmass is Australia, separated by nearly 2,000 kilometers across the Tasman Sea. Beyond that, it's surrounded by scattered islands, Antarctica, and vast stretches of open ocean in all directions. Even now, the South Pacific remains one of the least trafficked regions on Earth for air and maritime travel. A flight from Auckland to Sydney takes nearly 4 hours, comparable to flying from London to Athens across Europe. And that's just New Zealand's nearest neighbor. For much of Europe, New Zealand is quite literally on the opposite side of the globe. It is positioned almost exactly opposite modern-day Spain and Portugal. Traveling to or from New Zealand still takes considerable time, even in the 21st century. Due to this extreme remoteness, New Zealand was one of the last large habitable land masses on Earth to be discovered and settled by humans. And this remoteness didn't just shape travel, it completely rewrote New Zealand's human history. New Zealand remained untouched by humans until the 13th century. When Polynesian explorers arrived by chance, over time they developed the unique Maori culture. No other humans reached the islands until the mid-17th century, when a Dutch sailor made first contact. True European involvement didn't begin until 1769, when British explorer Captain Cook visited, about 5 centuries after the Maori had settled. In contrast, islands like Great Britain, Honshu, and Java were settled tens of thousands of years ago due to their closeness to major continents. By the 13th century, New Zealand had no human population, while places like Japan and Britain already had millions, about what New Zealand has today. Starting late meant New Zealand developed with far fewer people. Estimates suggest that after 500 years, the Maori population reached around 200,000. But after European contact, their numbers fell sharply. By 1840, New Zealand was a British colony and large numbers of settlers from Britain and Ireland began arriving. By 1890, the Maori population had dropped to about 40,000, while settlers had grown to nearly 500,000. Disease, warfare, and an unfamiliar legal system contributed to the decline. Early colonists mostly settled in the South Island to avoid conflict with Maori communities in the north and to chase gold discoveries. Over time, the North Island rebounded, eventually becoming home to more than 3/4 of the country's population. But geography wasn't finished influencing New Zealand. Even after people arrived, the land had its say in who could live where. The South Island of New Zealand is hard to develop due to its rugged terrain. It is far more mountainous than the North Island because it sits at the collision point of the Pacific and Australian tectonic plates. Over the past 45 million years, this collision has pushed up about 20 kilometers of rock, forming the Southern Alps, which stretch across most of the island. These mountains are similar in scale to Europe's Alps. 18 peaks rise above 3,000 meters, with the tallest reaching over 3,700 meters, nearly as high as Japan's Mount Fuji. In comparison, Australia's tallest mountain, Mount Kosciuszko, is about 1,500 meters lower. Building in such terrain is costly and difficult. The Southern Alps also affect the island's climate. Westerly winds from the Tasman Sea hit the mountains, causing heavy rain on the narrow western strip. As the air moves east, it becomes dry and warm, creating a rain shadow that leaves the eastern plains arid and prone to droughts. Though the eastern side is flatter and easier to build on, it lacks the rainfall needed for sustainable farming. The west, meanwhile, is too steep and wet. The North Island, while still mountainous, has more usable flatland and more consistent rainfall. It also enjoys a warmer climate, being closer to the equator. This makes it more suitable for development. Though both islands have volcanoes, those on the South Island have been dormant for centuries. Across the Cook Strait, though, a different story was unfolding, one with gentler land and more promising prospects. Volcanoes on the North Island remain active, and small eruptions have occurred over the past several decades. These have contributed to pockets of fertile volcanic soil, which are largely absent on the South Island. Combined with flatter land, more consistent rainfall, warmer temperatures, and slightly richer soils, the North Island is generally better suited for agriculture and can support a larger population. After the gold rush in the South Island ended and conflict in the North Island subsided, population growth naturally shifted northward. Today, the North Island is home to over 3/4 of New Zealand's population. Still, the island has its limitations. While volcanic activity helps enrich the soil, such eruptions are infrequent and usually minor. In the past 1,800 years, there have been only 13 significant volcanic eruptions in all of New Zealand. The North Island has seen just 4 minor eruptions in the past century, while the South Island has had none. In contrast, Japan experiences around 15 volcanic events each year, and a single volcano in Java, Indonesia, has erupted 6 times since 2018. As a result, volcanic soils in places like Japan and Indonesia receive mineral-rich deposits more frequently, making them naturally more fertile for agriculture. In New Zealand, less frequent eruptions mean that the land is not replenished with minerals as often, leading to comparatively lower soil fertility. But even fertile land has its limits. So, how did New Zealand turn its landscape into an economic engine? Due to its mountainous terrain, dormant volcanoes, hilly landscapes, arid plains, and uneven rainfall, most of New Zealand is not well suited for large-scale crop farming. Less than 2% of its land is classified as arable, comparable to countries like Jordan and Somalia, despite their much harsher desert climates. However, unlike those arid regions, New Zealand benefits from a temperate climate, ample water sources in some areas, and abundant grasslands, making it highly suitable for livestock farming. As a result, the country built its agricultural economy around grazing animals rather than cultivating crops. The well-known saying about there being more sheep than people in New Zealand is true. Today, there are nearly 27 million sheep, compared to just over 5 million people. Sheep farming has made New Zealand the world's leading exporter of wool and mutton. Even more significantly, the country has more than twice as many cows as people, and dairy products now make up its largest single export. Despite only a small percentage of land being arable, around 55% of New Zealand's land is used for agriculture, primarily for livestock. With limited mineral resources and few fossil fuel reserves, the country leaned heavily into animal agriculture following the decline of its gold mining industry in the late 19th century. Geography has played a major role in shaping New Zealand's development. Its small population and remote location, far from key global markets in Europe, East Asia, and North America, limited its ability to grow a large manufacturing base. Unlike other island nations such as Japan or the United Kingdom, instead, New Zealand is focused on producing and exporting high-quality animal products. Today, it generates enough food to feed about 40 million people, 8 times its population. Roughly 95% of this food is exported to over 100 countries. In 2019, this earned the country more than 46 billion New Zealand dollars. Animal agriculture remains the backbone of New Zealand's export economy, and given its natural advantages, it is likely to stay that way. Yet, feeding millions abroad doesn't mean filling the land at home. So, where do the people come in? Animal agriculture covers more than half of New Zealand's land, making it harder for people to settle widely across the islands. Like other developed countries, New Zealand's birth rate has fallen below the replacement level, but this trend is more recent. In 2010, the rate was 2.1 children per woman, enough to keep the population stable. By 2022, it had dropped to 1.8, still higher than countries like Germany, Japan, and South Korea. Unlike some of those nations, New Zealand has a long history of immigration. No one living in the country today has ancestry on the islands going back more than 800 years. Most of the European-descended population traces its roots back less than 200 years. Since mass British immigration began in 1840, most of the country's growth has come from migrants. For about a century, racially restrictive policies limited immigration from non-European countries. This slowed population growth, as relatively few Europeans were willing to move so far from home. As a result, New Zealand didn't reach 1 million people until around 1911. These restrictions began to ease after World War II. It took 45 more years to reach 2 million, then 20 years to hit 3 million, and another 30 years to reach 4 million in 2006. But growth sped up after that. By 2020, New Zealand had 5 million people, an increase of 1 million in just 14 years, largely due to immigration. In 2008, the government set a goal of 45,000 new immigrants per year, with an allowance of up to 5,000 more. Between 2013 and 2018, about 270,000 people immigrated. While the United Kingdom remains the largest single source, most new arrivals today come from Asia, mainly China, India, and the Philippines. Want more geography deep dives like this one? Hit that subscribe button so you never miss a journey into the world's most surprising places. But as more people arrive, a new challenge emerges, not where to bring them in, but where to put them. Today, over 27% of New Zealand's population was born overseas, one of the highest proportions globally. This figure is expected to continue rising. However, new immigrants tend to concentrate in specific areas rather than spread evenly across the country. Most settle in Auckland, New Zealand's largest city, and its primary gateway for international travel. Between 1996 and 2016, more than half of the country's population growth occurred in the Auckland region alone, a pace that has raised concerns about long-term sustainability. By 2022, the average house price in Auckland exceeded $1.1 million, while the average annual salary remained around $44,000. This creates a housing affordability ratio of about 25 years' worth of income for the average home, placing Auckland among the least affordable housing markets globally. So, while much of New Zealand remains sparsely populated, large parts of it are difficult to settle due to geographic and environmental limitations. The few areas that are heavily inhabited, like Auckland, are already facing significant housing challenges. It remains uncertain how much New Zealand's population will grow in the future. However, the country's immigration quotas are guided by evidence-based strategic planning. If you found today's video interesting, don't hesitate to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. Your support is very important to us. Be sure to check out the next video appearing on your screen. You're sure to love the content we bring. Please leave a comment about which country you'd like us to explore next. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video. Thanks for being with us. Leave a comment, like to show your support, and remember to hit that subscribe button for more exciting videos. See you next time.